The power grid collapses at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. No warning, no countdown. Just silence where the hum of civilization used to be. Within 6 hours, the first wave of panic buying strips every store within a 10-mile radius. Within 12 hours, water pressure drops to nothing in most urban centers. Within 24 hours, the first fires start because someone thought candles near curtains was a reasonable idea. And here is the brutal truth nobody wants to hear. If you are reading this after the collapse begins, you have already lost. The failures that will kill you did not start when the lights went out. They started months ago, in the quiet decisions you made when everything still felt safe. Most preppers obsess over the visible stuff, the beans, the bullets, the band-aids. They build lists and checkboxes and feel accomplished when their basement looks like a discount warehouse. But survival science tells us something different. The catastrophic failures happen in the invisible gaps, the assumptions you never questioned, the knowledge you never tested. These are not mistakes you make during the crisis. These are structural weaknesses built into your entire approach, and when the pressure hits, they will crack your plans wide open like an egg dropped from a rooftop. The first invisible failure is the contamination cascade, and it starts in your water storage right now. Today, while you think you are being responsible, you bought those blue plastic barrels. You filled them with tap water. You even added a bit of bleach like the internet told you to. You feel prepared, but here is what the chemistry actually says. Municipal water contains chlorine and chloramines that degrade over time. Those compounds break down into chloride and ammonia. In a sealed container with minimal oxygen exchange, especially in any kind of warmth, you are creating a perfect bacterial incubation system. The plastic itself leaches chemicals, particularly if those barrels were not food grade or if they have been sitting in a garage where temperatures fluctuate. Plasticizers migrate into the water. Biofilm forms on the container walls within weeks, invisible to the naked eye but absolutely teeming with opportunistic bacteria. And here is where it gets worse. Most preppers never rotate their water. They fill those barrels and mentally check the box. Water, done. But stagnant water is not safe water. Even with chemical treatment, even in sealed containers, degradation happens. You think you have 6 months of clean water. What you actually have is 6 months of bacterial soup that will give you dysentery in the first week of a grid-down scenario when medical care is non-existent and dehydration can kill you in 3 days. The invisible failure is not that you did not store water. The invisible failure is that you stored it wrong, tested nothing, and assumed sterility equals permanence. The fix requires understanding microbiology and chemistry together. You need rotation protocols, not just storage. Every 60 days, that water gets cycled. You use it for washing, for plants, for anything non-drinking, and you refill with fresh water and fresh treatment. You need to understand that bleach degrades, that chlorine evaporates, that effective treatment is not a one-time event, but a maintenance cycle. You need water testing strips that check for coliform bacteria, for pH changes, for the actual markers of contamination, rather than just assuming clear water equals safe water. And critically, you need multiple treatment methods ready for deployment because when that stored water is all you have, you cannot afford to discover it has gone bad when you are already thirsty. The second invisible failure is the caloric miscalculation, and it will starve you slowly while your pantry still looks full. Walk into any prepper stockpile and you will see the same pattern. Rice, beans, pasta, canned vegetables, maybe some freeze-dried meals, lots of carbohydrates, lots of fiber, not nearly enough fat or protein. People calculate their food storage by weight or by servings, but survival is not measured in servings. It is measured in usable calories under stress, and the math most people use is catastrophically wrong. Here is the science. An average adult needs roughly 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day at rest. That number is based on sitting in climate-controlled environments, doing minimal physical labor with full access to medical care and low stress. Now put that same person in a grid-down scenario. No heating or cooling, so your body burns extra calories, maintaining core temperature. No vehicles, so you are walking everywhere, carrying supplies, manually pumping water. High stress floods your system with cortisol, which increases your metabolic rate. You are burning anywhere from 3,000 to 4,500 calories per day, depending on the season and your activity level. And most prepper food stockpiles are optimized for shelf life and cost, not for caloric density or nutritional completeness. A pound of rice gives you about 1,600 calories, but those are almost pure carbohydrate. Your body needs fat for long-term energy, for hormone production, for vitamin absorption, for brain function. It needs complete proteins for muscle maintenance and immune response. A diet of rice and beans will keep you technically alive, but you will watch your muscle mass deteriorate, your immune system weaken, your cognitive function decline. You will feel exhausted constantly. You will get sick easier. You will heal slower. And because the collapse is not a 2-week camping trip but a potentially months-long or years-long restructuring of society, that nutritional deficit compounds until you are a shadow of your former capability. The invisible failure is not that you do not have food. The invisible failure is that you have the wrong food in the wrong ratios, and you never tested whether you could actually live on it. The fix requires brutal honesty and mathematical precision. Calculate your true caloric needs under stress conditions, not rest conditions. Then audit your stockpile for macronutrient ratios. You need roughly 30% of calories from fat, 20% from protein, 50% from carbohydrates for sustained physical and mental performance. That means adding oils, adding nuts, adding peanut butter, adding canned fish, adding full-fat powdered milk. It means understanding that freeze-dried meals marketed as 4 servings actually contain maybe 800 calories total, barely enough for one meal under stress conditions. And critically, it means testing your food supply by actually eating it for a week or two while maintaining physical activity, not tasting it, not preparing one meal, actually living on it, because you will discover immediately what your body tells you. This diet gives you constant hunger, or digestive distress, or mental fog, or energy crashes. You will discover which foods you actually hate eating and will not be able to sustain psychologically. You will discover that your carefully calculated 3-month supply is actually a 6-week supply when you account for real-world consumption patterns. That knowledge now, while stores are still open, is survivable. That knowledge 2 weeks into a collapse is a death sentence. The third invisible failure is the skilled degradation trap, and it is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of how human competence actually works. Most preppers accumulate knowledge. They read books, watch videos, bookmark articles, maybe take a weekend workshop on fire starting or first aid. They feel educated, they feel capable. But education is not the same as competence, and competence is not the same as performance under pressure. The science of skill acquisition tells us that knowledge without repeated practice under varied conditions does not create reliable ability. It creates false confidence, which is exponentially more dangerous than acknowledged ignorance. Take first aid as the perfect example. You took a CPR class 3 years ago. You know the concepts: 30 compressions, 2 breaths, call for help. You have a first aid kit with tourniquets and pressure bandages and chest seals. You assume that if someone gets hurt, you will know what to do. But here is what actually happens when the adrenaline hits. Your fine motor skills degrade. Your decision-making narrows. Your memory recall slows. That tourniquet you have never actually applied to a real limb under time pressure becomes a fumbling nightmare of straps and twists while someone bleeds out in front of you. The chest seal you have never opened outside the package has a backing that sticks to your gloves and will not peel cleanly. The pressure bandage requires a specific wrapping technique that you intellectually understand but have never performed on a moving, screaming person who is panicking and fighting you. Ever wonder what the biggest prepping failures are? It's not running out of canned beans or forgetting a fire starter. The real failures, the ones that get you, are invisible. They're the ones we don't talk about enough. Let's dive into what they are and how to avoid them. First up, the discomfort of self-improvement. We love buying gear, right? It feels productive. But what about the hard stuff? The stuff that actually makes us better. Learning a new skill, getting in shape, facing our own weaknesses. That's uncomfortable. It requires effort and humility. The first invisible failure is choosing the comfort of buying another gadget over the discomfort of genuine self-improvement. True preparedness isn't on a store shelf, it's built through sweat and practice. This leads directly to the next point, the necessity of drills. You can have the best bug-out bag in the world, but if you've never actually tried hiking 10 miles with it, it's just a collection of stuff. Have you ever tried starting a fire in the rain with your fancy ferro rod? Have you ever spent a night in your backyard with just your emergency gear? Most people haven't. Reading a manual is not the same as doing. Drills reveal the flaws in your plans and gear. They turn theory into skill. Skipping drills is like a firefighter only reading about fires but never training with a hose. It's a setup for failure when it counts. Then there's the challenge of making decisions under uncertainty. In a real crisis, you'll never have all the information. You'll be stressed, tired, and scared. How do you make a good call then? The failure here is assuming you'll just magically rise to the occasion. You won't. You'll fall to the level of your training. You need to practice this. Run scenarios in your head. Wargame different situations with your family or group. What are our criteria for bugging out? What's our rally point if we get separated? Making these decisions now, when you're calm and rational, is the only way to ensure you can make them under pressure. Now, let's talk about a big one. The community collapse blind spot. So many preppers focus on the breakdown of society, the golden horde, the Mad Max scenario. They plan for the collapse of the world out there, but they completely ignore the potential collapse of their own small group, their family, their friends, their mutual assistance group. What happens when your own community starts to fray? When fear, jealousy, or hunger turns allies into adversaries. This is a massive failure point. All the stored food in the world won't help you if your own group turns on itself. The dynamics of a small, stressed group are incredibly fragile. Ignoring this is a critical mistake. This blind spot is often fueled by the fantasy of rugged individualism. We've all seen the movies, the lone wolf surviving against all odds with nothing but his wits and a trusty knife. It's a powerful and appealing image. It's also almost entirely a myth. Throughout all of human history, survival has been a team sport. Humans are social creatures. We thrive through cooperation, specialization, and mutual support. The idea that you alone can defend a homestead, treat medical emergencies, grow all your food, and maintain your sanity is pure fantasy. Believing in the lone wolf myth is not just wrong, it's dangerous. It leads you to isolate yourself when you should be building connections. The truth is the reality of interdependence. You are not an island. You depend on countless systems and people every single day, whether you realize it or not. The farmer who grew your food, the engineer who maintains the power grid, the doctor who has the skills you don't. Acknowledging this interdependence isn't a weakness. It's the foundation of realistic prepping. Your goal shouldn't be to cut yourself off from everyone, but to build a resilient network. Who in your neighborhood is a nurse? Who's a mechanic? Who knows how to garden? These are the people who will be your most valuable assets, far more than another case of Mr. Ease. And that brings us to the failure to build a real community. Tossing a wave to your neighbor as you pull into the garage is not community. Being friends on social media is not community. Real community is built on trust, shared experience, and mutual obligation. It's messy, it takes time and effort. It means showing up for people when it's inconvenient. It means helping a neighbor fix their fence, organizing a neighborhood watch, or sharing your garden's harvest. Most people fail here because it's hard work. It's easier to stack boxes in the basement than to build genuine human relationships. But in a long-term crisis, that social capital will be the currency that matters most. Next is the timing paradox. This is a tricky one. Everyone worries about being too late, waiting too long, to bug out, to get supplies, to act, but almost no one worries about being too early. What happens if you trigger your plan, spend your resources, and abandon your home? And the crisis fizzles out. You look like a fool. You've disrupted your life, burned through savings, and maybe even lost your job for nothing. This fear of overreacting, of being the one who cried wolf, leads to a powerful paralysis. It's a huge psychological hurdle. This paralysis is known as normalcy bias. It's the little voice in your head that says, everything will be fine. It's never happened before, so it won't happen now. Things will go back to normal. This bias is one of the biggest killers in disasters. People see the floodwaters rising but delay evacuation because they couldn't quite believe their home will be underwater. To combat this, you need predefined trigger points. These are objective, observable events that you decide on in advance. For example, if the government issues a mandatory evacuation order for our area, we leave within 30 minutes. No debate. Or, if the power is out for more than 72 hours with no sign of restoration, we implement our water storage plan. These triggers take the emotion and guesswork out of the decision. They force you to act based on your rational plan, not your panicked feelings. So what's the common thread here? What's the fundamental truth that ties all these invisible failures together? It's this. Survival is not about gear. Your gear is just a pile of tools. True preparedness, true resilience, is about what's in your head and what's in your heart. It's about your systems, your psychology, and your knowledge. It's about the strength of your community. It's about your ability to adapt, to learn, and to lead. The biggest failures in prepping are failures of the mind and the spirit, not failures of equipment. Focus on training your mind, hardening your will, and building your tribe. That's where real security lies. Thanks for watching. Think about these points, and be honest with yourself about where your own weak spots might be. If this gave you something to consider, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the gear. Stay safe and stay smart.